Part 49. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 481. Torch Building, in the CEO's office. When she heard that Sun Shuxian was willing to pay Zhang Fengjai a sky-high price of 240 million for his hard work, Yaling felt like she was going crazy. If Sun Shuxian gave himself a huge sum of 240 million, the interest generated every year after depositing it in the bank would be nearly 10 million. Even if he does nothing in the future, his income of nearly 10 million a year will be enough to satisfy a luxurious life of eating, drinking, and having fun, and there will be no need to continue to please and serve Sun Shuxian in a lowly manner. However, when Yaling saw that there was no trace of distress or reluctance in Sun Shuxian's eyes except for the nervousness and expectation, her crazy emotion slowly calmed down, and she gradually realized the seriousness of the matter. To be able to become the top rich man in Ningji City and a big boss in the political and business circles, Sun Shuxian not only has an extremely smart IQ, but also has a murderous and decisive mind. He was willing to pay a huge sum of 240 million just to solve the problem of taking chestnuts from the fire and sparking a prairie fire mentioned by Zhang Fengjai just now. This shows that Sun Shuxian must have encountered a very difficult problem, and Zhang Fengjai has the ability to help him solve the difficult problem. Thinking that not only had she been very rude in her attitude, but she had also humiliated the other party with cheaper green tea, Yaling could finally understand the reason for Sun Shuxian's anger, and at the same time she couldn't help but feel worried. He was worried that in order to eliminate Zhang Fengjai's resentment, Sun Shuxian would ruthlessly throw himself into the cold palace, which would ultimately affect his opportunity to make money while he was young. However, when she saw Sun Shuxian's hands on his knees and his private parts, all her worried thoughts disappeared instantly. Because she has full confidence in her appearance and figure, as well as her professionally practiced skills, she believes that Sun Shuxian will never have the heart and reluctance to punish herself, let alone relegate herself to the cold palace. 240 million. Although it sounds like a huge sum of money, after deducting the proportion of donations, he can only get 2.4 million in the end. Therefore, facing the sky-high price chips given by Sun Shuxian, Zhang Fengjai did not show the slightest hint of temptation. However, considering the troubles and difficulties that the Torch Group is currently encountering, Sun Shuxian's ability to spend such a huge amount of money to seek help from him was enough to prove his sincerity, so Zhang Fengjai did not continue to embarrass the other party. After reaching out to pick up the bank card placed on the coffee table and throwing it to Sulixiu like a hidden weapon, Zhang Fengjai drank all the liquor in the glass and said with a confident smile on his face, "Mr. Sun, in fact, if I want to resolve the trouble you are encountering now, it is very simple to say it is simple, but it is quite complicated to say it is complex. It mainly depends on whether you have the courage to make sacrifices." "Mr. Zhang, please speak clearly," Sun Shuxian, whose nervousness was instantly replaced by excitement, immediately raised his hands in excitement. The first step is to cut off the charming bones to increase one's own blessings, and to drive away the greedy desires of relatives and gather the luck of the enterprise. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's first solution, Sun Shuxian, who had already made up his mind, immediately took out his cell phone from his pocket and made 2 calls. The waiting time is not very long, only about 3 minutes. A fierce-looking middle-aged man and a cold-looking middle-aged woman entered the office at the same time. "Minister Li, send all Yaling's relatives to the police station now on charges of corruption, bribery, and misappropriation of public funds," Sun Shuxian ordered murderously as he raised his head to face the cold middle-aged woman. "Shuxian, why did you frame my relatives?" When she heard Sun Shuxian's inhumane instructions, a trace of anger surged in Yaling's heart. She immediately got up from the ground, and then questioned at the top of her lungs. However, the middle-aged woman who ignored Yaling's question nodded vigorously and turned around to leave the office. "Contact the human traffickers in the north and sell her to me at a high price," Sun Shuxian, who also ignored Yaling's question, ordered to the fierce-looking middle-aged man. Yaling, who was originally furious, turned pale as a sheet after hearing Sun Shuxian's punishment on her, and her eyes showed an extremely frightened look. Whether it was on TV and newspapers, or on mobile phones and on the internet, detailed reports on the abduction and trafficking of women made her very aware of the rough fate and miserable fate of those women who were sold to remote mountainous areas. Therefore, without caring about the safety of her relatives for the time being, Yaling directly hugged Sun Shuxian's thigh and begged. "Shuxian, please don't sell me to those traffickers. I won't go to top restaurants in the future, I don't want brand name bags, I won't use luxury cosmetics, I won't drive luxury sports cars, or luxury villas. I can't live anymore." Seeing Sun Shuxian, who was not moved at all, Yaling's eyes flashed with determination and she continued to promise. "Shuxian, I promise to listen to you obediently from now on. I will do whatever you ask me to do, even if it is to accompany your important clients." The shady story revealed in Yaling's guarantee made Sun Shuxian's face change slightly, and he shouted harshly at the middle-aged man. Do it." After hearing Sun Shuxian's stern scolding, a cold light flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes. He grabbed Yaling's arm with one hand, supported her plump buttocks with the other, and then held her firmly on his shoulders. However, when the middle-aged man turned around and was about to leave, a soft sigh suddenly came from his ears. "Well." Looking at Yaling struggling desperately, and the tears of despair and fear dripping from her eyes, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but sigh and remind her. "Boss son, you don't need to use such cruel means to increase your own blessings by breaking the enchanting bones. After all, abducting women and children is not only a capital crime that is expressly prohibited by law, but also a bad thing that will damage the virtue of the next life and weaken the blessings of this life, so boss son just needs to kick her out of the house." Hearing Zhang Fengjai's seemingly reminder, but actually a veiled warning, Sun Shuxian quickly ordered the middle-aged strong man to put Yaling down, and then warned with a stern look. "Guo Yaling, take the things I gave you over the past year and get out of Ningji City immediately." Guo Yaling, who had survived the disaster, nodded and promised. "Yes, I will pack my things and leave Ningji City and Dongshan Province now. I promise that I will never come back to Ningji City." Afterwards, Guo Yaling knelt on the ground, kowtowed 3 times to Zhang Fengjai, and stood up and left the office quickly. Faced with Guo Yaling leaving the office quickly, Zhang Fengjai and Sun Shuxian consciously chose to ignore her. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 482. Torch Group, in the President's Office. The second step is to reshape the feng shui pattern of torch building, completely destroy the spread of the sparks and prairie fire, and eliminate the influence of the feng shui pattern of picking millets from the fire. After Guo Yaling hurriedly left the president's office, Zhang Fengjai, who put away his complicated emotions, continued to explain the solution to the feng shui pattern of the sparks and prairie fire. "Mr. Zhang, how to carry out the transformation?" Sun Shuxian asked hurriedly. "Mr. Sun, how about going downstairs with me?" Zhang Fengjai smiled and invited, standing up and picking up the wine bottle and wine glass. "I'm honored," Sun Shuxian, who stood up quickly, gestured respectfully. "Xiaoxiu, you continue to discuss, brother-in-law, I and Mr. Sun will go to the front yard of the building before leaving the president's office," Zhang Fengjai told Sulixiu, who turned her head from time to time to pay attention to him. "Brother-in-law, I know." After nodding, Sulixiu consciously accelerated the speed of the discussion and tried to get to Zhang Fengjai as soon as possible. It was past 3 in the afternoon, the busiest time for the group. Ting Ting, who had just sent a very important guest to the office of the group's general manager, looked down at her phone while waiting for the elevator to start. Perhaps it was because the short video on her phone was too attractive that she didn't hear the elevator's arrival ringtone at all. She didn't turn off her phone until she smelled the strong aroma of white wine. She looked up at the elevator. When she saw Sun Shuxian standing in the elevator, his face was so gloomy that it seemed like water could drip. She immediately bowed her head in panic and greeted him, then entered the elevator with her head held high. "Hello, Chairman." According to the group's regulations, playing with mobile phones during work hours will deduct the performance bonus and full attendance bonus of the month, as well as the year-end bonus and the annual meeting lottery. When the elevator door slowly closed, Sun Shuxian looked at Ting Ting, who was bowing her head and silent, and reminded her with a cold expression. "Chairman, I'm sorry, I was wrong." In order to motivate the group's employees to be serious and responsible in their fighting spirit, the salary system formulated by Torch Group is different from that of other companies. Whether it is the front-line sales staff and construction staff, or the management staff and service staff in the back, the basic salary is only more than 800 yuan per month, and the performance and commission bonuses range from 3,000 to 4,000 yuan, and as much as hundreds of thousands. The year-end bonus is half of the annual performance bonus, ranging from 30,000 to 40,000 yuan, and as much as millions. If 1 month's performance bonus and year-end bonus are deducted, she will lose nearly half of the annual income, which is definitely a thunderbolt for Ting Ting, who was born in a remote rural area. After all, she not only needs to rent a house and eat, but also needs to support her poor family and her 2 younger sisters who are in school. However, even if her fingers pierced her palms, even if tears were in her eyes, Ting Ting did not defend herself or beg for mercy, but bowed her head and admitted her mistakes with a correct attitude, which made Zhang Fengjai look at her with a higher opinion. Although her thin figure makes her look not so sexy, her perfectly matched facial features, combined with her pure temperament like a lotus, make her like a girl next door, lovable. Moreover, as long as her figure can be plump, combined with the pure temperament of a lotus, she will definitely be a peerless beauty who will bring disaster to the country and the people. Therefore, Zhang Fengjai, who felt pity, decided to help this lovely little sister in front of him. When the elevator door opened, Ting Ting reached out and pressed the key of the elevator door. She waited until Zhang Fengjai and Sun Shuxian both left the elevator before she squatted in the elevator and cried bitterly to vent her inner grievances. Standing in the front yard of the Torch building, after scanning the specific layout of the building, Zhang Fengjai pointed to the carport on the east side of the building and ordered. "Mr. Sun, after dismantling the carport, plant 3 weeping willows in a shape of a Chinese character." He moved his finger to the basketball court on the south side of the building and ordered. "Mr. Sun, transform the basketball court into a fitness area and place as many fitness equipment as possible." He moved his finger to the 3rd-floor cafeteria on the west side of the building and continued to order. "Boss Sun, completely demolish the cafeteria and transform it into a W-shaped rockery." He moved his eyes to the north of the building, where he was standing now, and pointed to the 4 identical quartzits in front of him, which were carved with the Torch building, and ordered. "Boss Sun, move these 4 quartzits away, and transform them into a stream-like pond, and raise 3 black dragons, 3 red-topped tigers, and 3 red long goldfish." After hearing Zhang Fengjai's series of instructions, Sun Shuxian thought about it for a moment, then frowned and reminded him. "Mr. Zhang, before building the Torch building, I hired a Feng Shui master from Hong Kong who was known as the Dragon Pointer. Whether it was the carport and basketball court, or the cafeteria and quartzite, as well as the unique shape of the Torch building, they were all built according to the instructions of that Feng Shui master. According to the explanation of that Feng Shui master, the car is speed, speed is wind, and wind helps the fire. The ball is hard, hard is fierce, and fierce helps the fire. People are food, food is fire, and fire is added to fire. And quartzite is hard, hard is defense, it can protect the wealth gathered by the fire from being lost. If the master's design is forcibly changed, wouldn't it affect the Feng Shui pattern of taking millet from the fire? Mr. Sun, the Feng Shui master who is known as the Dragon Pointer is right. The Feng Shui pattern of 3 assists and 1 guard can not only gather wealth from all directions to boost the fortune of the enterprise, but also allow you to overcome every disaster in the end. After hearing Sun Shuxian's reminder, Zhang Fengjai, with a gleam in his eyes, first nodded in agreement with his previous statement, and then shook his head to refute. It's just that the enchanting and charming bones and the greed of the relatives of the emperor made the Feng Shui pattern of picking millet from the fire eventually evolve into a burning trend of sparks and prairie fire. Then, the Feng Shui auxiliary pattern of 3 assists and 1 guard is not only no longer a help, but has become an accomplice to the disaster. Speaking of this, Zhang Fengjai explained confidently with a turning point in his tone. The weeping willow is wood, the equipment is gold, the rockery is earth, the pond is water, and the building is fire. Gold overcomes wood, wood overcomes earth, earth overcomes water, water overcomes fire, and fire overcomes gold. So, the 4 places I asked you to transform just now can not only destroy the burning momentum of the prairie fire, but also completely change the Feng Shui pattern of taking millet from the fire, and eventually evolve into a top Feng Shui treasure land with the mutual generation of the 5 elements. I understand. Being able to achieve a transformation in life through the construction of the torch building not only made Sun Shuxian believe in the art of Feng Shui, but also made him spend time to understand the art of Feng Shui. Therefore, after hearing Zhang Fengjai's explanation of the mutual generation of the 5 elements, he immediately knew the benefits of transforming the Feng Shui pattern of the 5 elements. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 483. The Front Yard of Torch Building. Seeing that Sun Shuxian could know the benefits of the mutual generation and mutual restraint of the 5 elements, Zhang Fengjai secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and then continued to give instructions. Mr. Sun, next you need to prepare 30 pieces of yellow paper, 1 ounce of cinnabar, 1 ounce of gold powder, 5 petals of peony, 5 drops of nectar, and 5 drops of finger blood, so that I can draw the 5 elements of the spell to stimulate the 5 elements, and finally form a Feng Shui treasure land where the 5 elements are generated. No problem. Thinking carefully about the 6 things Zhang Fengjai mentioned just now, except that the nectar needs to wait until the early morning of the next day to be collected, the remaining 5 things can be collected in the shortest time, so Sun Shuxian immediately nodded and agreed. At this time, he finally knew why the Feng Shui master he had invited at a huge cost, who obviously had a strong Feng Shui ability, could not resolve the crisis of the sparks and prairie fires. I am afraid that the reason comes from the 5 elements spell mentioned by Zhang Fengjai just now. At this moment, looking at Zhang Fengjai standing in the sun, the mysterious aura emanating from his body, he felt that the huge sum of 240 million just now was not only not wasted, but also made a great profit for himself. After all, the huge sum of 240 million can not only eliminate the disasters brought by the Feng Shui pattern, but also forge a friendship with the powerful Zhang Fengjai. Therefore, an idea suddenly emerged in Sun Shuxian's heart, that is, at the moment when the 5 elements Feng Shui treasure land is completely formed, prepare a thank you gift worth more than 240 million for Zhang Fengjai to continue to consolidate their friendship. Mr. Sun, according to the scope and speed of the expansion of the spark, you'd better be able to complete the renovation project within half a month, otherwise it will weaken the power of the 5 elements Feng Shui treasure land to gather wealth. Mr. Zhang, it doesn't take so much time. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's request and reminder, Sun Shuxian smiled and shook his head and explained. Because our torch group has its own professional construction team, if we work overtime, it will take at most 5 or 6 days to complete the project. That's better. The sooner the project is completed, the less powerful it will be in the face of the prairie fire, and the easier it will be to construct the 5 elements, so Zhang Fengjai nodded and said. After the project is completed, Mr. Sun will call me directly, and I will rush over as soon as possible. After confirming the transformation of the Feng Shui pattern, Zhang Fengjai and Sun Shuxian returned to the hall with laughter. However, when he saw the innocent girl at the front desk, her eyes were red. Obviously she had just cried, but she continued to work with a smile on her face, and after a satisfied look flashed in her eyes, she turned her head and said to Sun Shuxian, "Mr. Sun, you go ahead and do your work. I'll be waiting for Xiaoxiu in the lounge area of the first floor lobby." "That's fine." The sooner the Feng Shui pattern is transformed, the sooner the troubles he is facing can be solved, and the more he can go all out to catch up with the Kowloon group and fulfill the ambition he made 10 years ago, so Sun Shuxian nodded without insisting on accompanying him. However, when he saw that the Zumian famous wine in Zhang Fengjai's hand had run out, a thoughtful look flashed in his eyes, and he instructed the beautiful and dignified girl. "Han Han, come with me to the office." After the beautiful and dignified girl left with Sun Shuxian, Zhang Fengjai put the empty bottle of wine on the front desk, and then asked with a gentle smile on his face, "Girl, do you want to make money? Do you want to make a lot of money?" Although Zhang Fengjai's simple smile easily gives people a sense of trust, the proposal that is easy to cause misunderstanding makes Ting Ting immediately vigilant and shake her head to refuse. "No. What if it is legal income?" Zhang Fengjai continued to ask with a smile without caring at all. "Neither do I want to. What if it is a reasonable income earned through your hard work?" "I am not interested either." Facing Zhang Fengjai, who was full of alcohol, Ting Ting, who was becoming more and more vigilant, stepped back a little and continued to shake her head to refuse. "The parent palace on the upper side of the right eye is gray, which means that your mother is suffering from illness. The sister palace above the right eyebrow is wide in the east and narrow in the west, which means that you are the eldest in the family, and you have two younger sisters who are in school. The male and female palace on the lower side of the right eye and the husband and wife palace on the right side of the right eye are tightly closed, which means that you are still a lonely person with no feelings and no lover around you who can help you. At the same time, the second wealth palace and the life palace are both black, which means that your finances have been very tight during this period, and you have even thought of borrowing usury. Who are you? Why are you secretly investigating me?" Seeing the thin boy in front of him, who knew his situation clearly, Ting Ting, who suddenly became nervous, asked sternly and reached out to press the phone at the front desk, ready to contact the security of the building at any time. Facing the innocent girl who suddenly became nervous, Zhang Fengjai drank the white wine in the cup and stretched out two fingers to explain. "First, I am a Feng Shui master who is proficient in fortune-telling and yin-yang and 5 elements." He slowly retracted one finger and continued. "Second, I have never secretly investigated you. I got the information just now through physiognomy." "Ridiculous." Facing the thin boy who retracted the second finger, Ting Ting couldn't help but sneered and said sarcastically, "It's already the 21st century. Those feudal superstitions that fool people have long been exposed by science. Now you are cheating again. Aren't you afraid that the police will arrest you and put you in jail?" The coldness invades the inner palace, causing irregular menstruation and often accompanied by colic. Faced with the sarcasm and warning of the innocent girl, Zhang Fengjai neither turned angry nor tried to defend himself, but continued to use the means of physiognomy to win the trust of the other party. Long-term management and irregular diet have led to extremely slow development of the body. Speaking of this, Zhang Fengjai glanced at the other party's figure and said sarcastically with a slight smile on his lips, "Although there is external support, there is no real material. In fact, it is an endless airport. If the information at the beginning can be known clearly through secret investigation, but about the symptoms of palace coldness and the privacy of the airport, no one else knows except himself. So, how did this thin boy know all this? Moreover, apart from her slightly outstanding appearance, Her mediocre figure and poor background were not worth the other party's huge expense to secretly investigate. At this moment, Ting Ting actually believed that the other party was a feng shui master who was proficient in fortune-telling and yin-yang and five elements. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 484. The front desk on the first floor of Torch Building. Seeing that the vigilance in the innocent girl's eyes gradually relaxed, Zhang Fengjai knew that the observations and sarcasm he had just used through physiognomy had made the other party gradually believe in him, so he went straight to the point. "Girl, the girl who came with me today is named Sulixu. She is my sister-in-law. She came to discuss with Mr. Sun the sales agency of Heshuo Community, and she has successfully reached a sales agency agreement. So, the way I just mentioned for you to make money is that I hope you can temporarily join Zioxu's sales team, and then from the sales commission of the real estate, you can earn the funds you need to relieve your current difficulties." After hearing that, the skinny boy in front of her revealed that she could make money by working as a salesperson in a sales office, Ting Ting, whose eyes were all wary, secretly breathed a sigh of relief and apologized with a smile on her face again. "I'm sorry, I misunderstood you just now." "Fine." After shaking his head, Zhang Fengjai asked with a hint of expectation in his eyes. "Girl, how are you doing? Are you willing to join Zioxu's sales team?" "Well." Facing the expectant gaze of the thin boy, Ting Ting couldn't help but sigh and shook her head to explain. "Although my figure is not outstanding, my appearance and temperament are acceptable, so when I faced the first intermediary company to sell Heshuo Community, I offered a sales commission of 4 points and a basic salary of 5,000. If the conditions are met, I happily agree to join. But in the 3-month sales cycle, not only were there not as many customers coming to view the property as our sales staff, but there was also zero transaction volume, which made me truly understand what the most deceptive community is. So, I thank you for your kindness. I will not join your aunt's sales team." The innocent girl actually participated in the sales of Heshuo Community. Although this was beyond Zhang Fengjai's expectation, it also showed that she was a person who was willing to take risks and fight hard, so Zhang Fengjai did not give up persuasion because of the other party's rejection. "Girl, I am a feng shui master who is proficient in physiognomy and yin-yang and 5 elements. I can see the reasons for the sales difficulties of Heshuo Community and have the means to resolve the difficulties. This is why I want my sister-in-law to be the sales agent, so I still hope that you can think about it seriously. As the saying goes, once bitten by a snake, you will be afraid of well ropes for 10 years. If it weren't for that adventure half a year ago, I would have used the excuse of illness to take leave and only stayed in the agency for a month and a half. At the same time, she was lucky enough to catch up with the senior management of the group. They went abroad, went on business trips, and took vacations. No leader paid too much attention to the changes in the front office, so she was lucky enough to keep this well-paying job. Therefore, even if Zhang Fengjai could use his identity as a feng shui master to resolve the sales dilemma of Heshuo Community, Ting Ting would not dare to take the risk a second time. After all, she was in urgent need of money and really didn't dare to take risks easily. "Girl, this is my mobile phone number. When you are willing to join the sales agency team, you can call me directly." Ever since he entered the urban world of Ningji City, he had never tried so hard to persuade Sulixu, even when faced with her stubbornness. Therefore, facing the rejection of the innocent girl in front of him, Zhang Fengjai, who had completely lost his patience with persuasion, left his name and phone number, turned around and went straight to the rest area in the lobby on the first floor. But at this moment, a pure girl's voice suddenly came from behind him to persuade him to stay. "Zhang Fengjai, please wait." After putting down the piece of paper with Zhang Fengjai's name and phone number on it, Ting Ting asked with a trace of doubt in her eyes. "Zhang Fengjai, you and I are strangers to each other, and we have no interaction with each other. Why did you try so hard to help me just now?" After all, judging from Sulixu's appearance and figure, her sister, Zhang Fenjai's girlfriend, is definitely a beauty with outstanding appearance and figure, and the other party is definitely not plotting her beauty. Although the other party's clothes are relatively ordinary, the fact that he is respected by the chairman and can freely drink the famous wines in his office shows that the other party is a very capable person. His shabby appearance just likes to keep a low profile and he is not short of money. Therefore, when there was no money to be deceived and no beauty to be coveted, how could the other party's overly enthusiastic help not make Ting Ting feel doubtful and puzzled? Facing the innocent girl's question, Zhang Fenjai frowned slightly. In fact, instead of continuing to persuade him to go to the rest area, he also wanted to solve the exact same problem. Because he initially wanted an innocent girl to join Sulixu's sales team, but the other party's bad luck and stubborn and serious personality made him feel pity and want to help her. Originally, according to his unwillingness to meddle in other people's business, inviting the other party to join the sales team straight to the point was considered to be the most benevolent thing, and he would not care at all about the other party's ungrateful rejection. But what's next? Not only did he continue to use physiognomy to observe the other party's secret diseases to prove himself, but he also didn't get angry at the other party's successive rejections, which completely went against his original wishes. Therefore, the reason why he tried his best to help the other party also troubled him. Just when Zhang Fenjai didn't know how to answer Ting Ting's question, the beautiful and dignified girl who had followed Sun Shuxian returned to the front desk holding 2 bottles of bamboo white wine. Then, she handed 2 bottles of liquor to Zhang Fenjai, and explained with the most professional and charming smile on her face. "Mr. Zhang, this is a gift from our chairman. I hope you can drink it while waiting for Miss Su to come. Thank your president's son for me." Others get more confused the more they drink, but he gets more sober the more he drinks. So, Zhang Fenjai, who was troubled by doubts, took the bottle of liquor and thanked him, then turned and walked directly to the sofa chair in the rest area. After finishing a bottle of liquor in one breath, under the stimulation of alcohol, his increasingly sober mind made him gradually realize that the key point of his mental problems was to use physiognomy to observe the face of the pure girl. Thinking of this, Zhang Fenjai directly mobilized the gray energy of Danshan to open the sky eye, and then quietly observed the physique and look of the pure girl. Cloud soft body, purple cloud canopy. When he saw the special physique of the pure girl and her rich and powerful look, Zhang Fenjai suddenly showed an extremely surprised look. Yunro body, body like clouds, bones like soft smoke, a very unique and rare physique that can make a man completely fall in love. According to legend, Sudaji, who caused chaos in the Shang dynasty, had Yunro body. Xiun Huagai, top-level wealth and fortune, has the destiny of becoming the mother of a country. The best physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 485. Rest area on the first floor of Torch Building. After being surprised, Zhang Fenjai gradually understood why he had tried his best to help the innocent girl against his will without knowing it. The reason was that the Yunro body that the other party possessed had a fatal attraction to the prosperous peach blossom luck brought by his reversal of fate. If it weren't for the fate of the innocent girl, who was dragged down by the bad luck of her relatives, affecting the normal development of her body, and ultimately causing the Yunro body to not be completely opened. Then, when they first met each other, he would be completely out of control because of the Yunro body. After taking a deep breath and completely calming down the emotional fluctuations caused by surprise, Zhang Fenjai immediately extinguished the idea of continuing to help the innocent girl. If the innocent girl successfully entered Sulixu's sales team, after solving the impact of the 3-legged golden toad on the feng shui of the Heshuo community, the hot real estate sales and high sales commissions would definitely be able to eliminate the influence of the bad luck of her relatives. Finally, the 3 palaces of wealth, fortune, and luck accommodated the fate of Xiun Huagai, and then completely opened the Yunro body. Then, facing the pure girl who had completely opened the Yunro body, he might break the promise he made to Solitsi, and then do something impulsive to hurt her. Reaching out to open the second bottle of Zumian Beiju, while trying not to pay attention to the pure girl, he drank the wine while quietly waiting for Sulixiu's arrival. Fortunately, Sulixiu, who also wanted to return to his side as soon as possible, was willing to give up some petty gains and end the discussion in advance, and then signed the agency sales contract of Heshuo Community with Sun Shuxian, and returned to the first floor lobby as quickly as possible. Zhang Fengjai, who did not delay too much, quickly got up to greet him, and then left the first floor lobby hand in hand without looking back to pay attention to the pure girl. Looking at Zhang Fengjai, who left the lobby quickly, Han Han showed a look of complex desire in his eyes. Ting Ting looked at the paper with Zhang Fengjai's name and phone number, and her eyes showed a look of hesitation. The best time to solve the three-legged golden toad is at noon. It was already more than 3 o'clock in the afternoon when leaving the torch building, so Zhang Fengjai did not rush to Heshuo Community. At the same time, the moment the hidden danger of the three-legged golden toad was solved, the feng shui luck that had been suppressed would explode in an all-round way, thereby driving the hot sales of the entire community, which required advance preparations for sales. According to Sulixiu's plan, she needed to return to the agency to prepare the company seal and some small gifts, and print the sales contract promotional materials provided by the Torch Group, and handle some messy things. He needed to go to Xintang building to determine the sales staff and negotiate the specific basic salary and sales commission. So, after leaving the Torch building, they took different taxis and went to different places. Xintang building, the office of the sales department of Yongsheng Group. As the Golden September and Silver October sales season draws to an end, the sales staff of the 3 real estate projects of Yongsheng Group have also gradually returned to the headquarters for rest. As a qualified sales staff, good manners are certainly essential hardware, but outstanding appearance, figure, and temperament are software to improve sales performance, so every real estate sales department will recruit handsome men and beautiful women. When Zhang Fengjai came to the office of the sales department of Yongsheng Group, he saw a group of beautiful women who brought disaster to the country and the people, and 7 handsome men who were romantic and suave, chatting and making phone calls together. Since ancient times, jealousy and exclusion are the nature of all women. For her good deeds at the Roman holiday sales office, Xia Qingxuan not only gained the respect of General Manager Solitsi and was promoted to a supervisor of the sales department, but also accidentally sold 2 duplex mansions with a total value of more than 10 million yuan, and received a sales commission of 630,000 yuan. The double harvest of career and money immediately aroused the jealousy of most colleagues in the entire sales office, and later, under the deliberate instigation of the stunning woman, she was excluded by all colleagues. At this time, Xia Qingxuan, who was a little thin, was sitting alone in the corner. At this moment, looking at those colleagues chatting and laughing, she showed envy and loneliness in her eyes. After all, as a newcomer who had just joined the work for less than a year, she also wanted to integrate into the big family of the sales department and expected to be recognized by most of her colleagues. Just when Xia Qingxuan was sad because of the deliberate exclusion of her colleagues, a familiar greeting suddenly came to her ears. Xia Qingxuan. Looking up at the thin boy standing at the door of the sales department's office with a faint smile on his face, Xia Qingxuan suddenly stood up and shouted with a surprised smile on her face. Zhang Fengjai. If there is anyone in the world who can make her miss and think about day and night besides her biological parents, it is probably Zhang Fengjai, who completely changed her cognition and life. Because before she met Zhang Fengjai, she was a staunch atheist and believed that science could explain all supernatural phenomena. But Zhang Fengjai witnessed the existence of the evil ghost Li Changwan, which completely changed her worldview that she had adhered to for more than 20 years, and reshaped her belief that good and evil will be rewarded in the end. At the same time, before meeting Zhang Fengjai, she was just a slightly better salesperson, and her monthly salary, bonus, benefits, and sales commission added up to only about 20,000. but Zhang Fenjai's generous act of buying a duplex mansion and her romantic relationship with general manager Sulitsi not only allowed her to get more than 600,000 sales commissions, buy her first apartment in advance, and reduce her living burden, but also promoted her from an ordinary salesperson to a middle-level manager of the group. Although the atmosphere in the entire office was very lively, Xia Qingxuan's scream still attracted the attention of many people, and everyone's eyes were cast towards the office door. However, the sales department's work location is usually in the sales office of different real estate projects. Except for the stunning woman who has a more profound memory and several gold medal sales elites who are often awarded and know Zhang Fenjai, most of the remaining people don't know what the shabby boy standing at the office door does, so they have no interest in continuing to pay attention. Xia Qingxuan, come with me. The messy environment is not suitable for conversation, so Zhang Fenjai nodded to Xia Qingxuan and turned to come to the meeting room. Zhang Fenjai, thank you. Before sitting down, Xia Qingxuan bowed solemnly to thank him. Okay, that's what you deserve, no need to thank me. Knowing the reason why Xia Qingxuan thanked him so solemnly, Zhang Fenjai waved his hand and asked with a smile. Xia Qingxuan, are you free recently? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 486. In the conference room of Yongsheng Group. Of course. While nodding in response, Xia Qingxuan explained in detail after taking a seat. For our real estate market in Dongshan Province, December and January are the off-season for sales, March and April will start to open one after another, July and August will officially enter the warm-up stage, and September and October will the real hot period is commonly known as the Golden 9 and Silver 10. So, before the 5 properties of Ruyijiapan, Sunshine Garden, Yujing Garden, Huimei North Courtyard and Xinchenyuchan are officially sold in March next year, the vast majority of our group sales staff will either go out to participate in training and study or stay at the head office for rest. After hearing Xia Qingxuan's explanation, Zhang Fenjai's eyes flashed with joy and he quickly asked with a smile. Xia Qingxuan, now there is an opportunity to make money, an opportunity to make a lot of money, but it requires sacrificing more than 10 days of rest. I wonder if you are willing to do it? Missing for longing, grateful for gratitude, the natural wariness of girls, and the relationship that was not too familiar to each other, made Xia Qingxuan suddenly feel wary and asked cautiously. Zhang Fenjai, what kind of money-making opportunity is this? This is what happened. Not paying attention to Xia Qingxuan's caution and distrust, Zhang Fenjai introduced the process of agent sales at Heshuo community in detail, and then looked at her expectantly. How's it going? Are you interested in joining? Although he has been employed for less than a year, Xia Qingxuan knows everything about Heshuo community, which has the largest pit in Ningji city. The dilemma of only selling 3 small units on the opening day, the agency's sales record of 0 units in 3 months, the unprecedented 5 price reductions that no one paid attention to, and the government's shift in development direction are all enough to prove the failure of Heshuo community development and the reality. Sales are tough. Therefore, facing Zhang Fenjai's proposal, Xia Qingxuan instinctively wanted to refuse. However, when she saw the expectant look in Zhang Fenjai's eyes, the words of rejection were already on her lips, and she swallowed them down. It was precisely because of Zhang Fenjai's careful care that she was able to own an apartment of her own in less than a year after joining the job, and was successfully promoted to the head of the sales department. Both emotionally and rationally, she should agree to the other party's proposal and go all out to help him. Therefore, after careful consideration, Xia Qingxuan finally stood up and nodded in agreement. Okay, I will apply for leave with Minister Feng tomorrow morning and then go to the sales office of Heshuo community. Xia Qingxuan, I promise you will never regret the decision you made today. Zhang Fengjai, who also stood up to say goodbye, didn't care at all about her hesitation just now, smiled and gave his assurance before ordering. Also, please help me call Pan Switting. Compared to Xia Qingxuan's hesitation and concerns, when Zhang Fengjai asked her to help sell the houses in Heshuo community, Pan Switting not only readily agreed, but also did not ask for any basic salary. More importantly, she also proactively recommended Zhongli Wanran, who was also proficient in sales, to rent together. When he thought that Zhongli Wanran, whose appearance was not inferior to that of Pan Switting, but also had a very hot figure, and whose eloquence, temperament, and courage were all very good, Zhang Fengjai nodded happily and asked her to help ask the gold medal salesman of Yongsheng Group. Created Ma Ting, whose sales reached 50 million a day. Although Xia Qingxuan seemed hesitant at first, in the end he nodded and agreed to help to save his face. And what about Ma Ting, who thinks very highly of herself? After hearing his proposal, I immediately left an answer saying that I was not interested, then stood up and left the meeting room. Seeing Ma Ting's pair of slender legs disappear at the door, the gentle smile on Zhang Fengjai's face gradually disappeared, and a look of irritation appeared in his eyes. If it weren't for the good relationship between Ma Ting and Shen Loxi, and they had a certain degree of interaction with each other, he wouldn't have considered Ma Ting, who was not short of money, at all for opportunities like the Heshuo community. But what I didn't expect was that his kind intentions would not be appreciated at all. After taking a deep breath and forcibly suppressing the displeasure emerging from his heart, Zhang Fengjai returned to the sales department's office and called all 8 of the top 10 sales elites into the conference room. Faced with Zhang Fengjai's request to join the Pegatron community sales team, the 8 sales elites had the same reaction as Ma Ting. They either flatly refused without any interest, or declined on the grounds of physical discomfort. Looking at the 8 sales elites who stood up and left the conference room without hesitation, Zhang Fengjai's face gradually darkened. At this time, he finally saw that the elites of the group's sales department had long lost their courage to challenge difficulties and their adventurous spirit even though they were not very short of money. At this moment, no matter how arrogantly she said it, no matter how loudly she beat her chest, I'm afraid they would not join Sulixiu's sales team. Of course, this is also directly related to his identity as a personal bodyguard. If the people who made the request just now were Shen Loxi and Sulitzi, even Ma Ting, who is known as a gold medal salesperson, would probably not dare to raise any objections and just nodded in agreement. Thinking of this, after Zhang Fengjai got up and left the conference room, he went to Sulitzi's office and learned the details of the entire sales department from her. Finally, he selected 6 newcomers who had just joined the company and whose appearance, figure, and temperament were barely excellent from more than 90 sales staff. In fact, he had his own considerations and ideas for lowering his requirements and choosing 6 newcomers. Firstly, the newcomers who had just joined the company were more obedient. They could not only join Sulixiu's sales team obediently, but also accept the leadership of Xia Qingxuan and Pan Switting, which would be more helpful to improve the sales of Heshuo community. Secondly, he hoped to use the amazing gains of the 6 newcomers to give Ma Ting, who was very self-righteous, and the elites in the sales department a very loud slap in the face, so that they would regret the choice they made today. After discussing the specific basic salary and sales commission with the 6 newcomers, and agreeing on the time and place to meet tomorrow, Zhang Fengjai turned back to Sulitzi's office, and then used soft and hard rogue methods to have a good fight with her. Since it was an opportunity to pick up money for free, he must first consider his own people. So, after leaving Xintang building in high spirits, Zhang Fengjai took a taxi to Ningji Normal College, and then went straight to the college library to find Xiao Yuxuan. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 487. In the library of Ningji Normal College. After a period of job investigation and a detailed understanding of the difficult employment situation of music graduates, Xiao Yuxuan made an amazing decision, that is, to apply for a master's degree in marketing across majors. Of course, the reason why she made this amazing decision, in addition to the difficulty in finding a job, is mainly because Shen Loxi hopes that she can serve as the director of the sales department, and then the three sisters will work together to develop Yongsheng Group and completely solve Zhang Fenjai's worries about consumption. Originally, according to Shen Loxi's initial plan, she wanted her to be a personal secretary for a period of time, and then through her own experience and learning, after being familiar with and understanding the specific business of the entire sales department, she would start from the position of sales supervisor step by step, and finally be able to be honored as the director of the sales department. In this regard, she also planned to accept it with a throbbing heart. However, in the recruitment regulations of Yongsheng Group some time ago, for management positions above the middle level, the minimum academic requirement is a master's degree, which gave her a lot of pressure and stimulation. In order to adapt to the work of the sales department as soon as possible, and to avoid being looked down upon by colleagues and subordinates in the sales department in the future, and not wanting Shen Loxi and Sulitzi to bear too much criticism, she finally decided to apply for a master's degree in a cross-disciplinary program. Once the decision is made, the exam is difficult. After all, focusing on the music major for more than 3 years has made her neglect too much theoretical knowledge, and she needs to review it day and night. Therefore, in order to pass the postgraduate entrance examination smoothly and to avoid any interference in her studies, Xiao Yuxuan moved directly into the student dormitory, resulting in more than a month of not seeing each other, which is why Zhang Fenjai came to the normal college. First, the proposal in person seems more formal, and it can also show his affection for Xiao Yuxuan. Second, he also wants to ease the longing for each other after not seeing each other for many days and avoid emotional alienation between each other. Since there is still a month before the date of the National Unified Postgraduate Entrance Examination, the entire normal college has entered the intense preparation stage in advance. So, when Zhang Fenjai came to the third floor of the library, he found that the entire reading area was already crowded. Fortunately, as the top school beauty of the normal college, Xiao Yuxuan, known as the iceberg goddess, was as dazzling as a pearl in the dark, allowing Zhang Fenjai to see her figure at a glance. Quietly walking to her side, looking at her slightly pale face and slightly dark circles under her eyes, a trace of heartache emerged in his heart, and Zhang Fenjai suddenly had an impulse not to let her work so hard. Because his attention and thoughts were all on Xiao Yuxuan, he temporarily ignored the vigilance of the surrounding environment. When a strong and powerful palm patted his shoulder, Zhang Fenjai reacted and turned his head to look. Later, when he found that the person who patted his shoulder was a handsome young man who was as gentle as jade, elegant and graceful, a trace of unpleasantness flashed in his eyes, and he frowned slightly and questioned. "Who are you? Why are you tapping my shoulder?" After taking a look at Xiao Yuxuan, who was immersed in reviewing and was not disturbed by the questioning of the thin boy in front of him, the handsome young man secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and then ordered softly, "Follow me." Then, the handsome young man turned and walked towards the bathroom at the end of the hall. After taking a deep breath and temporarily suppressing the unhappy emotions in his heart, Zhang Fenjai followed him. "Yuxuan is my girlfriend, I don't want to see any opposite sex around her." Standing in front of the sink leading to the bathroom, the handsome young man warned indifferently. "Girlfriend?" After Zhang Fenjai asked back in surprise, he immediately asked with doubts in his eyes. "Has Yuxuan agreed to be your girlfriend? Although she hasn't admitted it in person, I believe she won't refuse." The handsome young man with a confident smile on his face explained in a firm tone. "Because from the moment we met, I have been running with her, studying with her, eating with her, and reviewing with her every day. At the same time, after the evening self-study, I personally fetched her water and said good night to her on the phone. All this is no different from a real couple, so I believe she has tacitly accepted the relationship between us." After hearing the explanation of the handsome young man, Zhang Fenjai frowned tightly, and a look of self-blame flashed in his eyes. Because since Xiao Yuxuan moved back to the student dormitory to prepare for the postgraduate entrance examination, he not only did not take the initiative to visit her, but also did not call her once to say hello. Although this is related to his character, who is not good at expressing his feelings, it is ultimately his dereliction of duty as a boyfriend. However, based on his understanding of Xiao Yuxuan, her lonely and infatuated character will not tolerate the approach of the opposite sex. So, how could she be willing to run, study and eat with the boy in front of her, and even accept his help and closeness? Unless the truth is as the boy in front of him said, Xiao Yuxuan has already abandoned him and fallen in love with the more handsome young man in front of him. Seeing the thin boy frowning, the handsome young man mistakenly thought that he still didn't believe in his relationship with Xiao Yuxuan, and continued to explain. Classmate, last Tuesday's online postgraduate entrance examination registration, Yuxuan and I both applied for the business administration major of the Magic City Finance and Economics College, and we agreed to take care of each other, so. Although the handsome young man did not continue to say the next words, Zhang Fengjai already understood what the other party wanted to express, which made his face suddenly change, and his eyes showed an unbelievable look. At the beginning, when Xiao Yuxuan decided to apply for a master's degree across majors, Shen Loxi and Zhuang Jian had specially selected a suitable school for her to apply for, and finally chose the Finance and Economics College in the provincial capital. First, the Finance and Economics College in the provincial capital is not well known, and the number of applicants each year is not large, which can increase the chance of passing the written test. Second, whether it is Zhuang Jian or Zhu Zhenjun, they have their own strong connections and relationships in the provincial capital, which can ensure that her interview will also pass smoothly. Third, Ningji City is only more than 100 kilometers away from the provincial capital. Even if you take an ordinary bus, it will only take 3 or 4 hours, which can ensure that everyone can meet every weekend and not alienate each other. In response, Xiao Yuxuan also nodded happily. Then, why did she suddenly change the school she applied for and choose a magic city that was nearly 2,000 miles away from Ningji City? Was it because her love hurt her and she finally decided to choose her own love again? The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 488. In the library of Ningji Normal College. When they chose to get married, although they promised Xiao Yuxuan that they would face their feelings in the future and pursue a man who loved her wholeheartedly, when they really faced the reality of breaking up, Zhang Fengjai suddenly felt a strong reluctance in his heart. Turning his head to look at Xiao Yuxuan, who was immersed in study, he recalled the bits and pieces of their acquaintance and love. He couldn't help but hold his chest with an uncontrollable heartache and wanted to leave here far away. However, when he walked out of the library with difficulty and saw the pond and rockery in front of him, he suddenly recalled the misunderstanding of Bai Jinjiao and Gu Yuanxian, and a hesitant look flashed in his eyes. After all, the facts seen with one's own eyes would be biased, not to mention that now he only believed the one-sided words of the handsome young man. So, Zhang Fengjai immediately adjusted his sad mood, took a step and sat on a green rock next to the pond, and then quietly waited for Xiao Yuxuan to finish her study and leave the library. As the sun sets, the night gradually begins to cover the earth, and the lights on the third floor of the library suddenly light up. At the same time, the number of students entering the library gate began to increase. When Xiao Yuxuan, with a smile on her face, appeared at the door of the library, Zhang Fengjai immediately stood up in surprise. However, when she saw the handsome young man who was catching up from behind and took the initiative to hold her jade hand, and she just struggled a little and accepted it calmly, the heartache that had been calmed down with great difficulty suddenly resurfaced. Fortunately, he had already made psychological preparations in advance, so he forcibly suppressed the impact of heartache on his heart veins, and walked towards Xiao Yuxuan and the handsome young man with a slightly pale face. Xiao Yuxuan, who was originally talking and laughing with the handsome young man, suddenly saw Zhang Fengjai appearing in front of her, and a panic flashed in her eyes, and then she quickly shook off the handsome young man's hand. "Yuxuan, congratulations on finding your love." After bowing and congratulating, Zhang Fengjai turned around and was about to leave. The heartache he had been suppressing suddenly broke free and hit his heart veins hard, causing him to spit out blood without being able to control the injury. Puff. Yezi. Seeing Zhang Fengjai suddenly spit out blood, Xiao Yuxuan, whose face turned pale instantly, rushed to him quickly, with a look of regret in her eyes. After wiping off the blood from the corner of his mouth, Zhang Fengjai shook off the jade hand holding his arm, then turned around and walked away quickly with a miserable smile. Yezi, things are not what you imagined at all. Listen to my explanation first. The influence of the heartache made Zhang Fengjai unable to control the shock at all, which caused Xiao Yuxuan to be directly shaken back several steps. When she saw Zhang Fengjai turning away with a cold look in his eyes, she knew that her clever behavior not only hurt him completely, but also caused a misunderstanding that they might break up. Xiao Yuxuan immediately planned to chase him and loudly wanted to explain clearly. But just as she was about to catch up, the handsome young man suddenly appeared in front of her, blocking her route and questioning with a slightly ugly face. "Yuxuan, who was that boy just now? What is your relationship with him?" "He is my boyfriend and my eternal lover." Xiao Yuxuan, who instantly recovered her previous iceberg goddess temperament, replied with an indifferent look, and was ready to bypass the handsome young man to continue chasing Zhang Fengjai. But after being easily blocked by the other party, the handsome young man continued to question with a gloomy look. "Yuxuan, if that boy is your eternal lover, then what am I, Zhao's Haidong, in your eyes? You are just a stepping stone to help me get into the Magic City Finance and Economics College." Xiao Yuxuan replied with a cold expression, took off the gloves on her hands, threw them on the ground and stepped on them a few times. In fact, as Zhang Fengjai knew, her arrogant and infatuated personality made it difficult for her to tolerate other opposite sexes approaching. The reason why she accepted everything Zhao's Haidong did for her, and even reluctantly accepted his hand-holding, was that he promised to help her successfully get into the Magic City Finance and Economics College. The Magic City Finance and Economics College is a key university directly under the Ministry of Education. It is not only recognized as the most valuable institution in finance and economics, but also the most difficult professional university to pass the postgraduate entrance examination. More importantly, Sulitsi, who has always been regarded as her rival, is also a graduate of this college. After joining the sales department of Yongsheng Group in the future, although she cannot surpass Sulitsi in terms of position, she can surpass her in terms of academic qualifications and experience. After all, Sulitsi was only an undergraduate student at the Magic City Finance and Economics College. So, when she heard that Zhao's Haidong, who was born in the Magic City, was absolutely sure that she could be admitted to the Magic City Finance and Economics College, her unwillingness to admit defeat and her jealousy made her not only secretly change the provincial finance and economics college chosen by Shen Loxi and Zhuang Jian, but also make the decision to endure humiliation. However, when she saw that her act of enduring humiliation not only made Zhang Fengjai vomit blood sadly, but also disgusted with herself, Xiao Yuxuan suddenly woke up from her jealousy and felt extremely regretful in her heart. At the same time, she decisively gave up the idea of surpassing Sulitsi. Okay. Xiao Yuxuan's ruthless reply and the humiliating act of throwing away the gloves made Zhao's Haidong, who was livid, say good 3 times in a row, turn around with clenched fists and run straight to the dormitory building. Xiao Yuxuan, who was in no mood to pay attention to Zhao's Haidong, hurriedly looked up to find Zhang Fengjai, but found that he had already disappeared in the darkness. Thinking of Zhang Fengjai's pale face when he left and the ruthlessness in his eyes, Xiao Yuxuan, who was worried about breaking up with each other, quickened her pace and rushed to the school gate. At the same time, she immediately took out her mobile phone and started to contact Shen Loxi and Zhuang Jian, and after repeated consideration, she also called Sulitsi and told them the details. As the first woman to meet and walk with Zhang Fengjai, Sulitsi knew how much damage Bai Jinjiao's betrayal had brought to Zhang Fengjai. So, when she heard that Xiao Yuxuan's self-righteous behavior caused Zhang Fengjai to vomit blood because of sadness, she immediately realized the seriousness of the matter. Without bothering to blame Xiao Yuxuan, she hung up the phone immediately, then quickly found Zhang Fengjai's number and called him. When she heard the reply on the phone was turned off, she suddenly felt uneasy, and she rushed out of the office and called Shen Loxi in a hurry. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 489. After Zhang Fengjai, who was full of sadness, left the normal college, he directly reached out to hail a taxi, then took out a few red tickets and threw them to the driver, and ordered in a slightly hoarse voice. Master, please send me to a place where I can vent my emotions. No problem. After happily putting away the 5 red tickets, the taxi driver glanced at the pocket where Zhang Fengjai had just dug out the money. After a greedy look flashed in his eyes, he stepped on the gas and headed straight to the place where he thought he could continue to make a fortune. The journey time is not very long, less than 4 minutes. The taxi slowly drove into a quiet and remote alley and finally stopped in front of a karaoke bar with a Jin Sanzo sign. Young man, despite the remote location of this karaoke bar and the decoration at the door not being luxurious, there are some tricks inside that you can't even imagine. After the taxi stopped, the driver, who was about 37 or 18 years old, pointed at the neon-lit karaoke hall in front of him, with a mysterious smile on his face and said seductively. For example, dazzling dances, special services, bloody black boxing, illegal drugs, etc., will definitely allow you to vent your depression and forget all your worries. Thanks. When the taxi driver revealed that there was an underground black fist in the karaoke hall in front of him, Zhang Fengjai flashed a surprised look in his eyes. He nodded indifferently and thanked him, then opened the door and got out of the car and walked directly to the karaoke hall. The taxi driver, who didn't turn around and leave, immediately opened the door and got out of the car with a slightly raised corner of his mouth. He walked directly to a wooden door next to the karaoke hall, then stretched out his finger and knocked hard 5 times. Then, the wooden door slowly opened a gap. Less. Looking at the 2 red tickets handed out from the crack of the wooden door, the taxi driver frowned and explained. Although that boy's clothes look rather shabby, judging from his boldness when he was riding in the car just now, he is definitely a fat sheep with a lot of oil and water, so you can see if you are giving me a little extra. After hearing the taxi driver's explanation, the person behind the wooden door was silent for a while, and then replied in a hoarse voice. Laoju, if you have enough oil and water, Brother Biao will compensate you according to a certain proportion afterwards. That's okay. After reaching out and taking the 2 red tickets handed out from the crack of the wooden door, the taxi driver nodded and replied with a smile. Then I will make time to come over tomorrow night. Okay, a voice of agreement came from behind the wooden door. Welcome. When Zhang Fengjai walked to the glass door of the karaoke hall, a gorgeous waitress wearing a sexy professional suit took the initiative to open the glass door. Afterwards, the other party greeted him with a friendly smile on his face, and led him through a small supermarket filled with different brands of beer and wine, as well as various snacks, and then came to the cashier counter. Sir, we have a total of 5 different types of private rooms here, namely small package, medium package, large package, luxury package, and emperor package. Each type of package has different consumption and corresponding services. Among them, bring me an imperial box. After directly interrupting the counter clerk's introduction, Zhang Fengjai ordered with an indifferent expression. After carefully observing the thin young man in front of him, he wore gold-rimmed glasses and had a slightly feminine temperament. The young man at the counter, who was also thin, reminded him with a smile. "Sir, since the consumption of luxury boxes and emperor boxes is relatively high, according to our rules, you need to pay a certain consumption deposit in advance to avoid unnecessary disputes in the end." "How much?" While nodding to express understanding, a bank card appeared out of thin air in Zhang Fenjai's hand. 18,888 means you will be happy. "Swipe your card," Zhang Fenjai ordered with a calm expression after throwing the bank card directly to the feminine young man. The feminine young man, with a flash of light in his eyes, accurately caught the bank card thrown by Zhang Fenjai, selected a special box, and then swiped the card to return it as a reminder. "Sir, your box number is Yanghe Palace. I hope you can have a good time." After the pretty waitress led the thin boy to the private room, the effeminate young man ordered excitedly into the headset clipped to his collar. "Sister Lee, that boy is definitely a fat sheep with plenty of oil and water. Send your two most cunning little girls to try to squeeze out his blood." I followed the waitress around several corridors, and finally came to a private room marked Yanghe Palace. Then the waitress took the initiative to push open the heavy glass door. The private room, which is about more than 70 square meters, in addition to the sofa, projection, and karaoke station, also has a small stage, 2 crystal coffee tables, and 3 independent bathrooms. There is no need to think too much. Zhang Fenjai also knows the purpose of the stage and the independent bathroom, and understands why the consumption in this box is so expensive. "Sir, what do you plan to drink?" the waitress asked after adjusting the lights and speakers. "Let's get 3 boxes of beer first," Zhang Fenjai ordered calmly as he walked towards the sofa. "Please wait." Just as the waitress opened the door and left, a pretty woman about 35 or 6 years old, slightly stout, walked in with a box of cigarettes in her hand. "Sir, my name is Lily. I am the public relations manager of this karaoke bar. Please take care of me." While offering the cigarette with her hand, the charming woman introduced herself with a wink. "Thank you, but no," Zhang Fenjai politely refused, pushing back the cigarette offered by the other party. "Sir, it's boring to drink and sing alone. Do you want me to call a few beauties for you?" The beautiful woman threw the cigarette into her mouth without any concern, lit the cigarette and blew out a smoke ring, then smiled and suggested, "Okay." Zhu Zhenjun, who often hangs out in entertainment venues, once gave him a detailed introduction to the unspoken rules here. Accompanying drinking, singing and chatting is not only a way for entertainment venues to make money, but also a means of testing. Generally, for karaoke bars like Jin Sanzo that walk on the edge of the law, PR beauties are just appetizers to make money. They also secretly operate special services, pai gao and shaking powder, which directly violate the law. If you accept the services of PR beauties, you can not only get rid of the suspicion that you are an undercover policeman or reporter, but also prove that you have enough financial resources, so the beauties in charge of the service will gradually recommend those projects. If you don't accept the service of the PR lady, then you will be asked to leave the box by the ferocious security guards in 1 hour at most. So, in order to see the bloody black fist that the taxi driver had mentioned, Zhang Fenjai smiled and nodded and agreed. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 490. In the box of Yanghe Palace. Pop. The moment Zhang Fenjai nodded in agreement, the pretty woman clapped her hands vigorously with a cigarette in her mouth. Then, 7 delicate and charming young girls dressed in sexy clothes stood side by side and bowed to greet them. "Hello, sir, welcome to Jin Sanzo Song Hall." After scanning the 7 delicate and charming beauties, Zhang Fenjai was immediately attracted by the 2 girls standing in the middle. Regardless of appearance and figure, temperament and skin color, the 2 girls are far more stunning than the other 5 girls. Although there were no random thoughts in his heart, having beautiful beauties around him was always a beautiful thing that could increase his interest in drinking, so Zhang Fengjai pointed at the two most beautiful girls. The charming woman, who was not surprised at all, stood up with a smile and ordered. Wrong wrong, Yi, use your housekeeping skills and serve your distinguished guests well. I got it, Sister Li. After responding to the pretty woman's instructions with a smile, Rong Rong walked directly to the touch screen and started ordering songs, while Yi quickly opened the wine. Although there are many temptations in entertainment venues, few girls can stay clean all the time, but the fragrance of virginity comes from Rong Rong and Yi. This makes Zhang Fengjai quite surprised, but at the same time, he does not reject their closeness. Brother, a big river has wide waves. Pick up this bottle of beer and drink it all. While Rong Rong was singing, Yi picked up 2 bottles of beer and signaled. Dry. Without any hesitation or nonsense, Zhang Fengjai took the bottle and drank it in one gulp. Brother, if a man doesn't drink, he's living in this world in vain. Let's go one by one. The bold move of the thin young man in front of her made Yi secretly happy. At the same time, she picked up 2 bottles of beer and signaled. Without any hesitation or nonsense, Zhang Fengjai still drank the wine in the bottle in one breath. Brother, show your skills in times of crisis. I'll treat you to a bottle of wine. Brother, there is a bright moonlight in front of the bed. There are 2 pairs of shoes on the floor. Hold a bottle and meet at the door opposite. Let's drink 2 pairs. Drinking 12 bottles of beer without any pause was just a mouthwash for Zhang Fengjai, who had no bottom line in drinking. But for the petite Yi, an overwhelming feeling of vomiting suddenly emerged in her stomach, causing her to quickly wink at Rong Rong who was singing, then get up and rush to the bathroom. Although he kept singing, Rong Rong, who was thoughtful, had been secretly observing Zhang Fengjai. From the first bottle to the 12th bottle, not only did she not feel drunk at all, but the frequency and time of drinking up each bottle were exactly the same. This made Rong Rong clearly realize that she wanted to get the other person drunk. Information and indiscriminate consumption, I'm afraid I have to call a few drunk sisters to help. Therefore, Rong Rong, who temporarily changed his strategy, just slowly drank a bottle of beer and whispered in his ear. Brother, do you want to play something exciting? Tell me about it, Zhang Fengjai said with a hint of expectation in his eyes after picking up a bottle of beer. Brother, as long as you order 2 bottles of Louis 15, Yi and I will dance for you, how about it? Pointing to the small stage in front of the projection, Rong Rong winked and said seductively. I'm not interested, you should try another one. Zhang Fengjai shook his head and suggested with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. Brother, you are so bad. Rong Rong, who misunderstood the meaning of Zhang Fengjai's change of program, lightly punched his shoulder and whispered with a slightly blushing face. Brother, Yi and I are just public relations people who are responsible for accompanying people to drinks and dancing, and we are also college students who keep their integrity, so we only show off our skills and not our bodies. If you have that kind of idea, I can ask Sister Li to make new arrangements for you now to ensure that your appearance and figure are not inferior to those of Yi and I. Miss Rong Rong, you misunderstood. I have no interest in that kind of thing for the time being. I just want to see the black boxing you operate here. Seeing that Rong Rong misunderstood what he meant, Zhang Fengjai hurriedly defended himself, but at the same time, he directly confessed his intentions without continuing to cover up. When Zhang Fengjai mentioned Black Fist, Rong Rong's face changed slightly, and there was a trace of hesitation in his eyes. Originally, according to the plan formulated by Brother Chen and Sister Li, they first used sweet talk to get the other person half drunk, then used dancing to arouse the other person's interest, and then took the opportunity to get his origin, work, and consumption level, and then decided on his what you can enjoy next. But the other party's astonishing drinking capacity and determination not to be tempted by beauty completely disrupted their pre-made plans. Therefore, When Zhang Fengjai was conscious and asked to see underground black boxing, Rong didn't know how to answer. At this moment, the glass door of the box was suddenly pushed open, and the feminine young man in charge of the cashier entered the box with two murderous strong men. Brother Chen, a look of fear flashed in his eyes, and he quickly stood up and saluted. At the same time, Yi, holding a mobile phone in her hand, quickly walked out of the bathroom in the box. Seeing Yi closing the phone screen in a slight panic, Zhang Fengjai immediately knew the reason why the feminine young man appeared in the box. Brother, this is a formal entertainment venue, and there are no illegal projects, so when you make a request, you'd better think it through, otherwise, be careful of getting into trouble. Walking straight to Zhang Fengjai, the feminine young man warned with a sinister smile. There is nearly 2 million in this card. Ignoring the feminine young man's warning, Zhang Fengjai took out the bank card he had just used for consumption and reminded him calmly. I don't know if I am eligible to enjoy other projects operated by your karaoke bar. If so, please take me there immediately. If not, I will check out and leave now. The feminine young man, with a gleam in his eyes, waved his hand at the two strong men. After the two strong men left the box, he asked with a flattering smile on his face. Brother, do you want to experience the feeling of boiling blood, or do you want to make money by betting on winning or losing? Aren't you talking nonsense? After rolling his eyes at the feminine young man, Zhang Fengjai pointed at Yi and said. At most 10,000 yuan, she can make me feel the excitement. Why should I waste time watching black boxing? I'm so sorry, I just said the wrong thing because I didn't think it through. After giving himself a slap in the face to apologize, the feminine young man made a serious request. Brother, compared to the borderline business of accompanying drinking and singing, underground black boxing is a serious crime that the country severely cracks down on, so in order to ensure our safety, you need to hand over all electronic devices in advance.